Daf Samach Vav Min Aleph, 7 lines from the top. We learned previously that Rabbi Yehuda, even though he says that the shkolm of 1 year can be offered in the next year, however, he says that if there was a Parasaurus Yom Kippurim, if they were lost, they brought replacement ones, they found the original ones, we don't use it for the next Yom Kippur. Why is that? Because he says, Exera Mishum Takola, that if you leave it there till the next year, there might be a mishap, there might be a takola with it if it's there, lying there for that period of time. Where do we see that we have this gzera because of a takola? The Sanya we learn in the Brisa, ein makdishin ve'ein ma'arichin ve'ein machrimim bizman hazeh. We're not makdish things for the Beis Hamikdash. We're not makdish things. We don't make an erech, a neder of an erech, or a cherem bizman hazeh. Nowadays we don't make it. We don't have the Beis Hamikdash. We don't have the Beis Hamikdash, so we are not makdish these things and have it a kedusha. But if he did make this type of a neder, behema, if it was an animal, it's te'akir, it's uprooted. We'll see in a minute what that means. If it's peres or clothing or utensils, it's left to decompose. You leave it till it decomposes or rots. If it's money or metal which doesn't decompose, he takes the value of it and throws it into the Yom HaMelech. He throws the value of it to the Yom HaMelech. Ve'ezehu ikur, so we said with the animals, it's uprooted. Ve'ezehu ikur, what does that mean? Noel dels the fanavi mesa me'ala. You lock it up, you close the door in front of it, and you lock it up, and you starve it, and it dies on its own. So we see over here that the animals, we don't keep them alive. So we say that since you can't be makravit, we're chayshish v'takola. L'chayr, it's because exer of takola. Similarly over here, in our case, exer mishum takola. So frekting more takola than mine. When we say we don't leave it alive because we're concerned with takola, what type of takola are we concerned about? Takola than mine. If we're concerned that someone will by mistake will bring it as a korban, so meaning in our case where by Yom Kippur we're afraid that someone will be makravit prior to Yom Kippur, it has to be brought, and theoretically could be brought for next year's Yom Kippur, but we're afraid that someone will be makravit during the year. Well, if that's the case, then all cases where we say the animal is if it grazes until it gets a mum, then you use the proceeds for a korban. Well, we should have the same concern, that we should say perhaps it'll be makravit. How do we allow it to graze? And the takola the gizva avoda, and if the takola is the mishap, then he might shear the wool. He might work with it and it'll come to be use the animal and get an offer from it and work with it and degrade it. Afilo kol riyas nami. Well, then have the same concern about all the cases where we say yirashe yistai. The Gemara says lo'ilam takola da'akrava. Really, it is a takola that we're afraid he'll be makravit before Yom Kippur. But we're not concerned about the other cases where we say Yerashi Yistai, because over there he's not going to be makra these animals. They're left to graze. So there's not something that he has in mind that is going to be used for a korban. So therefore, those that Hanach Talav B'nei Akrovanin are loitarbu. He's not preoccupied with them, and we're not concerned that he might mistakenly be makravit as a korban. But this, the Yom Kippur korban of the animals, the Bas HaKrovahi, that theoretically it would be suitable for next year's Yom Kippur, so it could be designated for a korban to be makravit. Tarbu, he's preoccupied with it, and he might come to be makravit, and therefore it's a takola, and therefore we do not keep it. We don't keep it around because we're concerned that this might occur. Then the Gemara says the takola atzma tanoi. This, whether we're concerned about takola, this mishap, is actually machlokes tanoim. The Tanya Chada we learned in one brisa, Pesach shaloi karo garish, an animal that was designated for the korban Pesach, and they weren't makravit on Pesach Rishon, yikra b'sheni. It can be used for Pesach Sheni. That animal can be used for Pesach Sheni. For a person who was tamer b'derech l'chayka, you can use that for Pesach Sheni. B'sheni, if it wasn't offered in Pesach Sheni, yikra l'shana haba. You wait till the next year and you're makravit the next year. You can be makravit the next year. You can keep it. So l'chayra, we're not concerned with takola. V'tanya yidach, but another price says lo yikra. It should not be offered the next year. You're not makriv the next year. You see, Yitzchak says, but this second brisa agrees that you can keep the Pesach Sheni. We're not concerned about the takola aspect for that 1 month, but don't keep it till the next year. So lo yikrav, you're not makriv the next year. So my love a takola plea. So aren't they arguing with takola? Isn't this machlokes whether it's your chayshish for takola or not? That we're chayshish that you might be makriv during the year, and you might not wait till next year for Pesach, and you might be makriv. The Seiz Rishonim asks, why are we concerned with takol over here? The Pesach B'shari Masechet is a shlomim. Even if he is makriv, l'chayr, it should be kosher. It should be kosher because it can be used for a shlomim, so it would be kosher regardless. He answers that since they were talking in a case where this animal could be used for the next Pesach, then you need an akira. To be kosher for a shlom, you have to be oikered, you have to redesignate it for a shlom. So if he did not redesignate, if he wasn't oikered, it would not be kosher for a shlom. So therefore, I'll go upon him. L'chayr, we have a machlokes. Are we concerned for takola or not? Gemara says, like, no. The kuli alma, leichashin al-takana, really, I'll tell you, everyone is not concerned with the takol. That's not the machlokes here. And if the animal could be used for the next Pesach, everyone would agree, both prices would agree that it's kosher. But what's the machlokes? Here it's the machlokes based on Rebbe or Rabbana. Whether we say the year is 365 days or it's 12 months, the Korban Pesach, the lamb has to be within the first year. How do we define the year? So if you say it's 365 days, then you have an opportunity, perhaps, under certain circumstances, to use it for the next year. If you say it's 12 months, it's going to be disqualified regardless. That's the machlokes. Will this animal be fit, usable for the coming year? The first brisa goes with the shita of Rebbe that it's kosher, it could be kosher for the next year. In the case where it is kosher, you can leave it. And the second one is the Rabbanan, that it's not going to be kosher for the next year, and therefore it's going to be disqualified, and therefore you can't keep it for the next year. So you don't save it because it's going to be disqualified. Break the Gemara, but we have another brisa that says, so too, that it was money that was set aside for the Korban Pesach. The money should not be saved for the next year. Now over here, clearly that's not the issue, whether it's going to be beyond the age of a year. It's nothing to do with machlokes, the Rebbe and the Rabbanan. But the kol plegi shmamino. So you see conclusively over here that the machlokes is totally on takola. Are we geyser mishum takola or not? So you see, it's a machlokes tanoim. Zok the Mishnah, coming back now to the avodah of Yom Kippur. So he goes, and now after he completes the avodah of the par and the Sor La Hashem, then the Mishnah says, Bola Eitzel Sora Mishtaleach. He comes over to the Sora Mishtaleach, the Sora, the goat that they're going to send out. And he leans on it and he makes a vidu. He confesses, he says, On Hashem, Chatu Avu Pashul V'nech Amcha Beis Yisrael. Says, your nation has sinned before you. The different levels of sin, of Chet, Oven, and Pesha, of Shoigi, Mezid, and Merida. On Hashem, please Hashem, Kaperna L'chatayim V'lavainis V'lapshoyim, Shep Ovu V'shapashu L'fanech Amcha Beis Yisrael. Shachatu, rather, V'shavu Shapashu L'fanech Amcha Beis Yisrael. Forgive them for the sins that they made before you. Kakasa V'saris Meisha Avdecha Lemor, like it says in the Torah, Ki Vayayim Hazeh Yichaper Aleichem L'tareschem Mikol Chatoisechem Lifnei Hashem Titoru. That it says in the Torah that you will be forgiven. So please forgive them for their averes. And the Kohanim and the people who were standing in the Zoram, when they heard the name Hashem, the Shem Amaforish of Hashem, when it came from the mouth of the Kohen Gadol, when they heard the Shem Hashem, they would kneel and bow down on their faces. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusa La'olam Void. They heard the name of Hashem, they would say Baruch Shem Kavod. Now, Taisus Yeshonim says, even though we don't find this lashon mentioned in the earlier Mishnayos on the earlier Viduyim, but it applies to the earlier ones as well. It applies to the earlier Viduyim as well. Then after this, what is the Seder Masul Mishayim Elicha? The Kayanim, the Kain Gadol rather, gave of the Sorezol to the one who would lead it out to the cliff. Hakol Ksherem Loilicha. You don't need a kohen for this. Anyone is kosher to lead it out. But the Kohanim Gedolim, they made a rule. They established a rule, and they did not let a non-kohen lead it out. They were marked that it should be done by a kohen. Rav Yosi. So, but Rav Yosi says, no, that's not true. That Rav Yosi Ma'aseh V'Elicha Arsel. There was a Maisa that a person called Arsla, he let it out, and he was Yisrael. Then you see that there's no keva, there's no such rule. That's the way the Rabbeinu Yakim explains, the way the Siach Yitzchak explains it is that he's not arguing with what was previously mentioned. The Kohanim didn't have a keva. He is bringing a riot to that. He said there was a time then some Yisrael did it. But that was a Yitzim in a Klal. But generally, they did not allow Yisrael did it. They were makbid that a kohen should do it. The Mishnah continues, V'kivesh asuloi, they made a ramp, which an elevated ramp, that it was higher up, to take it out. Because of the Bavloim, Shayu Maratalshim Basara, Vaimilo, because they used to pull his hair and say to him, Tul would say, take it out, leave. So they were attacking him, so to speak, and pulling out his hair, and they said, take it out as quickly as possible. Don't leave the Averis over here. Take it out right away. So they made an elevated ramp so they shouldn't be able to touch him, to grab him, and to pull at him. Zog the Gemara, and we see in the Vidui that was mentioned in the Mishnah that he says that there should be a kapora for Bnei Yisrael. But Ve'ilu B'nei Aaron Am Kadeshech Eloi Ka'amar. In this vidui, he says that be mechaper for the averas of Klal Yisrael, but he doesn't say for the averas of the Kohanim. He says Shalom v'Shapash v'Nech Amcha Beis Yisrael, but he doesn't say that for the averas of B'nei Aaron Am Kadeshech, which he does say in the previous vidui that was mentioned. So man Tana, who is the Tana? So we're assuming, therefore, that the Sarah Mishtaleach, the Kapor, is not for the Kohanim. It's only for Yisrael and not for the Kohanim. Who is the Tana? Am Rabbi Yerimeh, the Loik Rabbi Yehuda. It's not like Rabbi Yehuda, the Ik Rabbi Yehuda, Hamar Yeshlem, Kapor B'Sarah Mishtaleach. He says that the Kohanim did have a Kapora in the Sarah Mishtaleach. They did have a Kapor in it. So let's say that it argues with that. So Amar Abai Amar, he says no. Afilotem Rabbi Yehuda Ato Kohanim Lavachal Yisrael Nenu. Aren't Kohanim considered a part of Yisrael? They are part of Yisrael. So therefore, he argues and he says no, that the Kohanim do have a kapar on the Sarah Mishlech. It could be going even according to Rabbi Yehuda. But the previous Mandomer, Rabbi Emra, holds that when it says Yisrael, when it says Yisrael, it means only Yisrael and not Kohanim, and he holds that the Kohanim don't have a kapara in the Seir HaMishtaleach. They handed over, the Kohen Gadol handed over the soil to the person who would lead it out to the cliff. It says in the Pasuk is, so it says in the Pasuk, "Ve'nasun oisem al rosh hasor v'shilach b'yad ish iti hamidbar." So the Sawyer is handed over, and it's sent out b'yad ish iti hamidbar, to the midbar. So we darshan ish lachshes azar. It's ish. It's a man. It's not a kohen. So even a azar, a non-kohen, is allowed to do this, leading it out. Iti, it's designated, a person who's designated she'im mezuman. He has to be designated from before Yom Kippur to lead out the sor. Iti v'afil b'Shabbos. It's designated and taken out at all times, even on Shabbos. They lead it out even on Shabbos. So see the Gemara Vayter. We'll see later on the implication of this. Iti v'afil b'tumah. That even in Tuma, it's designated at the designated time, with a man in its proper time it's sent out, that even if it's Shabbos and even if it's Tumah. So even if there's Tumah, then it's still sent out. So even if the man is Tamei, he can still send it out. So Zaktimar Ish Lahacher Sazar, it says Ish, that even a non-kohen Nazar is kosher. If I can more pshita, what do I need this limit for? It's not an avoid in the base of Mikdash, he's taking it out to the midbar. Why would I think you need Davka Kayan? More answers Mount the same a kaporik siva. The pasuk says that it should provide a kapor. It should be for a kapor. Therefore, since sending out the sor lazos as a kapora, you might think you need a kayan to affect the kapora. So Mount the same a kaporik sibe kamash malan that ish that lahache esazar. The Gemara will darshan continue with the droshes and analyzing these droshes through this next Amud.